this video, we are going to understand and compare analog and digital signals. Basically, physical quantities are represented by numerical values in two ways, which is analog and digital. And let us explore analog. An analog representation is continuous range of values between two expected extreme values. It means there can be infinite values between the two extremes. For example, let us consider a clock tower, which means here we have 12, 3, 6 and 9. So if we see clearly, there we can find out 1, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10, 11. So this can be 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10 and 11 respectively. So if we still observe clearly, there will be one more thing that we can see. There will be still more options here. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like this you will see something, some markings. So this means if the minute's hand, let us consider two hands, clock in the clock, which will be hours hand and minutes hand. Okay, so if the time is 12 o'clock, for example, for the time to become 12 o'clock 1 minute, it will take 60 seconds. So, for the minute hand to move from 12 to 12:01, it will take 60 seconds of time, and from here to here, if it wants to move, it will take 60 seconds of time. And while the minute hand is moving, we can always see in the analog. That means between this area only, we have multiple values. That means between 12 to 12:01, these two are extreme points considering A and B. There we will have infinite number of values between two extremes. So this is how analog can be represented. Like in summary, between any two values in an analog, between any two values, you can find infinite number of values in between them. So this is analog. Let us explore digital. A digital will have a discrete set of values which will mostly be binary. Binary means either 0 or 1. Suppose let us consider the same example of a digital clock. In a digital clock, you will just see the time, which is like 12 o'clock. And now if you want to see 12:01 after 60 seconds, it will directly show you 12:01, but it will not show you any other value in between. So this is digital. There will only be either 1 or 0, which means like there will be only a particular finite value, discrete value, which can be seen. That is digital. Okay, now we have understood what an analog and what a digital is. Let us explore now what a signal is. What is a signal? Suppose, let us consider a switch and a fan. Let us consider the switch as point A and the fan as point B. So when you turn the switch on, the fan will start rotating. So what we are telling the switch is to turn the fan on. So the input from A is being carried to B through wire. So we can, this wire is a physical connection which already exists between A and B. Now, how is this input getting carried through the wire? It can be through current, voltage, etc. Okay, so now by using this, you can understand that something that is being carried from one place to another, that means the transfer of data from A to B to do something, okay, is called a signal. It can either be wired or it can be wireless. In our example, it is wired. Okay, so in summary, a signal is the transfer of data from one point to another, which can be wireless or wired, and also can be electrical or electromagnetic current that carries data. So let us explore the types of signal as we have understood what a signal is. So there are two types of signal. One is analog, other is digital. An analog signal is continuous communication which is sent as a signal of varying frequency. In short, it is continuous signal. Continuous data transfer is going on in analog. So we call it a continuous signal. What about in digital? In digital, discrete signals will be passing the data. That means if a signal is passed now at this point t, and then again at t1 only the next signal will be passing. There is no in between signal between t1 and t2. Okay. So now let us see how this analog is represented and how the digital is represented. Analog is represented using a sine wave. Digital is represented using a square wave. So this is how analog and digital are represented. So now what does analog exactly handle? Analog handles the equipment which handle the info such as continuous data like voltage, current, waveforms, etc. In digital, what does it carry? In digital, it just carries data which is in the numerical form. For example, binary, 0 or 1. So, what, what would have been the differences in analog and digital signal examples? So, example for analog signal can be considered as sounds in the nature. Any sounds in the nature which are natural, anything that natural comes under analog. Suppose voice, suppose bird sounds, nature sounds, visuals, whatever you are seeing, everything visual, these all will come under analog signals. What are digital? A data in numerical form is called digital. Numerical data. is called as digital. So now we have understood the basic differences between analog and digital. Now let us conclude and compare them once again. So let us take analog versus digital for final comparison. An analog is a continuous signal which changes with time. Digital is a discrete signal which changes at certain time intervals. The design of analog is complex design, but the digital is easy to design. Since analog is very complex to design, it is also time consuming. It will take more iterations to meet the expectations. Iterations means rotations. Okay, it will take so many simulations or rotations to be done for meeting the expectation. Digital does not consume much time, it is less time consuming. Analog is continuous and so it can be precise. Digital, wherever it is used, since it is using the numerical data and all, it can be highly accurate. So, analog is very hard to store. Actually, to store the analog, that means to store the music, voice, visuals, it is very hard. They can only be stored in vinyl records, the cassettes, etc. But in this digital world, it is easy to store. Analog is improgrammable. Whatever you are working on, it cannot be programmed later after making the analog device. But digital can be programmable. It can be programmed in such a way that it works as a different thing by using the same device. Okay, so these are the basic differences between analog and digital. And the main thing also with analog and digital is analog consumes more power, requires more power to work. But digital doesn't require more power, it just works with less power only. Analog is also more prone to noise. The surround Since it is a continuous signal, the surrounding noises can affect it more. Prone to noise. But digital, since it is very discrete, it will only take the things it requires. It is immune to noise. So these are the basic differences. Now we have understood the differences between analog and digital and we have compared them. But nowadays we require both analog and digital in our day-to-day lives. So they have to work together to, to be helpful for us in our day-to-day lives. Thank you.